Today, uh, actually tomorrow, I'm sorry, in the morning, is the new moon in Virgo. Oh, here we go. So I'm live on Facebook and on Instagram, and I have to like juggle all of it, but that's a very Virgoan concept. All right. So yeah, tomorrow at 5:59 a.m. is the new moon in Virgo. Assuming today is Wednesday. Are you guys keeping up with the days? I'm not really keeping up with what day it is. It's really hard sometimes, even though my kids are in school, but like everything's happening. So, you know, the reason I love astrology is because of the archetypal associations. I get to break down reality. That's my thank you. It's Wednesday. I appreciate that. But I do love astrology because I get to break down reality and think of the different parts of how I think about life, right? And Virgo is about everyday life. And that's really the important part of Virgo. When you get to Virgo season, you get to start thinking about what your habits are. And really, it is when we start losing light. So it's not quite the equinox, but we do start losing light. And it starts to get to where, oh, we have to really pay attention to what we're doing with our lives. It's going to be winter eventually, and we're going to start losing the warmth and losing the vegetation. And so it is a sign of the harvest. It's an earth sign, and it's a mutable earth sign. And mutable is, I can't help but teach, but a mutable sign is about change and about uh, to a certain extent, the dissolution, especially with this, perhaps this moon, because it's not necessarily opposite Neptune, but it's close to it. So the way things pass from one world to the other, that's a very Virgoan concept. And this new moon in Virgo, let me pull up the chart here so I can look at it because I do interpret where the planets are. And, pseudoscience, whatever you want to say, I feel like astrology is an art. And Carl Jung pulled all of his clients' charts. So that's my number one, like that's what I say, whenever people challenge me. But I feel like it's extremely validating, extremely important to just delve into parts of your reality that you may not think about otherwise, right? Like it may be unaware. Uh, and you're to a certain extent, you're always aware. You're aware that the light is getting, you know, more golden and red when the sun sets. You're aware that things are changing, but are you aware of it? Are you thinking about how it affects your life? So this new moon specifically is associated with thought. It's ruled by Mercury, and it is about thinking about things and considering and focusing, discernment. And I think discernment's a really good word for Virgo. I call Virgo the pruner of the zodiac. It knows when to prune things, it knows how to fix things, it knows how to organize things and make things flourish. That's what pruning does. It cuts off the dead leaves, it deadheads the flowers, and it says flourish. We understand the process of life and death with Virgo. And that makes Virgo associated with anxiety. Incidentally, if you're aware that life passes from one thing to the next, maybe it makes you a little anxious. So, that's not a hard jump to make. Oh gosh, I need to mute my own volume just started playing and really freaking me out. I have Mars in Virgo. And my ego is very associated with this concept of having to be perfect. And I think that's what I really want to say. Perfection is the boon and the bane of Virgo. We know how to fix reality and we know what to do. We see that needs to be fixed and that needs to be pruned and that needs to be tweaked, yada, yada, yada. But then you think, what if I can't fix it all? What if I don't do well enough? What if? And then you start shoulding all over the place. As one of my teachers, Christopher Wittek, says, don't should everywhere. You know what I mean? So like I should have done this and I should have done that. And actually in Virgo that makes sense because it's starting to get, cooler. Granted, right now in the central United States in Birmingham where I live, we're having hurricane winds and rain and all of that. And so it definitely is getting cooler. But it starts to get cooler and you think, oh, should I have done that during the summer? Should I have done this? And so it's also a sign of memory. And Mercury and Gemini, Mercury rules two signs. It rules Gemini and Virgo. And Gemini, it's the newness, it's the new thought, it's the new information. And Virgo, it's the contemplation of the past information. And so we start to get preoccupied with perfection and imperfection. And then we start to feel guilt and, how we could have done better and our shortcomings in Virgo. And so that's, not super comfortable territory for the current times. Not at all. The current times are tough. And so the last thing you want to be doing is thinking about how you've messed up, how you could have done things better, how you could have done things differently. And I have a few notes. I did more research for this one than I normally do because I feel like this new moon's super important. And I can't promise I won't get emotional, just so you know. But the idea of masochism, punishment because you didn't do what you needed to do. That's a Virgoan concept. And a lot of Virgo people, Virgo risings, Virgo moons, and if you are a Virgo, you might feel this. And that is, I I should be punished. And it's not even your guilt. It's not even your thing, but I should be punished because, et cetera, because I cannot make this right. I cannot make this perfect because I am imperfect. Then we start to get to the philosophical or religious idea of original sin and the fact that I am here to die and that I'm here to consume things that die and I'm here to consume, you know? So we're talking about original sin as well when we're talking about Virgo. So wow, Virgo, whoa, sort of heavy, right? But then we get to the higher vibrations, the higher ideals of Virgo, and those things are healing and fixing for the greater good, uh, being here to support others, the harvest to feed people. That's a Virgoan concept. Uh, it is the earth mother, So those are where you start to get out. You take yourself out of the guilt and you start to say, I put in the effort for, not I should have done. And then we start to talk about past and future. And I told you I'm going to get emotional. Because what a time to be alive. All of the stuff we enjoyed before. How much more could we have enjoyed it? Um, for instance, maybe you had a job that made a bunch of money and now through this you've lost it. And you think, what would I have done? What could I have done differently? Or, maybe you've lost your health. Maybe everyone's dealing with a place where they probably think should. And what I'm encouraging, and that's, gosh, new moon, sorry, get the moon involved and it's emotional and I'm a Cancer rising. I can't help it. But to really contemplate instead of thinking of past. We do learn from our past. That's important. That's a mercurial idea. But considering the future and instead of I should, it's I shall. How can I do it now? Now that I know all of the things that I know that the cold comes. I know that the reality pauses and changes and turns into something that I never considered, right? So it's not the should, it's the I shall with this new moon. And it's drawing on wisdom. So, astrology talk, the new moon is trine to the planet Saturn, and Saturn is authority and wisdom and rules. So there's a certain, in this new reality, what can I do? What shall I do in this new reality? Not should, that's past. Learn from it, think about it. It's shall. So the idea of imperfection can, during this whole Virgo month, the sun's been in Virgo. This happens at the 25th degree of Virgo. So for 25 degrees, 25 days, the sun's been in Virgo, and it builds and builds and builds in astrology every 30 degrees. The 0 degree is the initial step into it. And then the 30th degree is the mastery step. So you think about it, and this energy builds and builds, and then we can think of the imperfection consciousness that builds and builds, the guilt consciousness, the consciousness of Virgo can have doormat, tendencies. And so you think of all that builds and builds and builds until this new moon, which resets, and it says, not should, shall. We're not going to carry the guilt forward. We can't do that. We can't carry the worry forward. We can't do that. We can't carry the fear, the doormat behavior. We can't carry that forward. What we have to carry forward is the healing and the help and the fixing, but not the fixing because we want to tool reality because we feel inadequate. The fixing to help, right? The harvest to feed. That's what we want to carry forward. And so what we can do is we can let go of that imperfection, that guilt, the guilt that oftentimes is not ours. In Virgo, and everyone has Virgo in their personal birth chart. Virgo is somewhere in the sky when you were born. You may not have a planet there, still somewhere in the sky. It's in our reality. This is a part of our consciousness. We all have Virgo somewhere that we overanalyze and somewhere that we focus on what we can do right. And then the guilt that isn't ours because we really want to help humanity so much. We want to heal humanity so much that we carry this guilt that is, it's not ours, right? So this new moon, we can perhaps reset, and we can accept where it is that we find ourselves. Why would we need to compensate for anything when we're here? You don't compensate. You are here, you're living, you are doing it. So, how do you move forward? Compensation is of the past. That is correcting. And to a certain degree, Virgo does correct. And so I don't want to leave that behind. But because of the trine to Saturn right now, I want to talk of mastery and authority and the future and how we can build. Saturn really wants you to build. It wants you to have a strong framework. And we've been doing a lot of Saturn work over the last, Lord, 3 years, but especially especially over since the new year. Let me put it that way. And maybe even a little bit into 2019, before things went retrograde. So, in fact, I can speak of 6 months ago. That would have been what? Uh, Someone else help me. What was 6 months ago? What month are we in? I don't even know. What I'm speaking of is the last Virgo season. That would have been a year ago. No, I'm speaking of Pisces. That's what I'm speaking of, because we just had the full moon in Pisces. So that would have been what, February, March? That was right before we got paused and shut down. So I'm speaking of this process of what have we learned? Where have we come from? Well, oh my gosh. We've come from a place of disillusionment. We've come from a place of complete disconnection from reality, and that's Pisces, you know? So now, how do we step into reality and actually work with the physical, with reality, with what we're doing? Yeah, March. It was definitely March. Thank you. And that's how bad I am with days. I'm not even gonna lie. Like I can't. I'm like, what day? What month? What year? That's a very Piscean concept, you know? What is this? Where are we? And in fact, a Piscean concept is I want to escape, I want to get out. And so that's also a part of our consciousness right now, you know? I have a moon in Pisces, so you aren't alone if you're doing it too. But my point is that it's not going to help to dwell on what could have been, should have been, was. You know, I hear a lot of people say when things go back to normal. I mean, not gonna happen. No, because that was a different normal. That was a different world. And we have a new set of input. And interestingly, the eclipses are happening in Gemini and Sagittarius right now. And that has to do with input and then what we do with that input and how we put it into belief form, into what we believe. And Virgo is naturally in tension with that because Virgo really is concerned with the details. You know, Gemini and Sagittarius are bigger or more shifting consciousness. If you're taking in information, you can't be prolific with it yet. And if you are in a belief, it's very hard for you to look at how that belief is not correct, which is a very Virgo concept, you know. So Virgo is what's called square to where the eclipses happen right now. So this also has to do with our progress. I just sounded like I'm from Michigan or something. Progress. Progress. Okay. This has to do with our progress as a soul and where we're going to. So that being said, I also want to talk about some other things happening because if we talk about Virgo's new moon and how we're setting intentions on how to really get focused on what to do in reality. And if I haven't said that, let me say it now. We're getting focused on where to go forward, how to fix, yes, but don't take the guilt. You take the fixing, not the guilt of the past. The fixing is the future. And you take the discernment of Virgo, which is also super important and also related to the eclipses right here because information and belief, well, we need discernment for that. Discernment is the balancing factor there. And so we need discernment to move forward. What is right? What is wrong morally, scientifically, in reality? What are all those things, right? But there's another thing happening because we can count on this trine to Saturn to build something strong for the future. We also have to look at the other things going on, which is major tension. We're having to balance things out, balance out our ego desires, what we want right now. Maybe we want to hang out with people right now. We want to go to a concert right now. We want to do these things right now. We need discernment in order to build the future properly. We need to think about our health. Health, Virgo is healing. We need to think about that to do that properly in the future. And then, you know, I think planning is really the important message of Virgo. Like, hey, how can we do this correctly? How can we do this in a healthy way? How can we do this in the way that fits with the earth and that fits with our health and that fits with the way we work, the way we make things? Virgo's an earth sign. It's very material, you know? So all of those things are important. Then we've got Mars retrograde. Whoo, Mars retrograde. These things are just reflections of reality. Mars retrograde is you want something, you can't have it. You want something, not moving forward yet, but you want it more because it's not moving forward. You want it, you want it, you want it. And if you didn't know you wanted it, now you know you want it. That's a Mars retrograde in Aries. If you didn't know you wanted to go to war for this, now you know you want to go to war for this. If you didn't know you'd be violent in this situation, now you know you'd be violent in this situation. That's a Mars retrograde in Aries. And That's in square to Saturn, and it's currently applying to its another square with Saturn, which is like, those aren't the rules. Those are not the rules. You cannot do this. Well, you know, Virgo is what is known as a quincunx to Aries. It doesn't really see the warrior, it doesn't understand the warrior. The way Virgo is a warrior is through planning and organization and the facts and dust and details, and so it doesn't really get it. And in fact, Aries is kind of annoying to Virgo. And anything in that sort of situation is called a yod, the finger of God, whenever you have two things in sextile and something quincunx. And so, wow, you have the finger of God pointing at Virgo, which is like, slow down, think about this, be healthy with it, think about your health, think about the work that you have to do, think about the harvest. We have to go harvest the corn. Do we water it enough? We don't have enough corn. We need to procure food for the future. Meanwhile, Mars and Aries is like, but I want to go to war. And Virgo's like, we don't have enough food. You can't go to war. So this is very heavy in a certain sense, because it pulls us down to reality and says, you have to think about this. You have to be aware of what's going on in reality. This is not a time for disillusion. This is not a time for illusion, is really what I mean. It's not a time to be lulled into conspiracy. It's not a time to be lulled into escapism. It's not a time to be lulled into too much imagination. You can't completely get rid of it, but it's a time to come back down and say, this is what needs to happen. I guess I just want to say here with this is, you are okay as you are. That's an important thing to understand with Virgo as well. This creates a lot of questioning of yourself, a lot of nervousness, anxiety, and did I not do things right? I said that at the very beginning. So let me say, you are okay as you are. We have to move forward from the now. And coming up very shortly, like on Friday, we've got Mercury squared Jupiter. And there's a lot of different possibilities, a lot of different information that keeps coming in, a lot of different feelings, different desires popping up, different things we feel like we have to act on. And my advice for this is to be selective. There's going to be a lot, just an overabundance of thoughts, of ideas, of this is the way to go, this is the way to balance things out, this is the fair way, this is the blah, 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 blah. And we have to boil it down and be selective during this time. This is the eye of the needle that we are passing through. And it's in a good position for our future. It's in a good position to bring us to the future that we need, that we want, but we have to pass through this eye of the needle. That does not mean perfection. That means working our way into something that's very small. It's very focused, It's not perfection, it's mastery. That's what it is. It's authority, it's wisdom. There's nothing in this world that's perfect. You might say there is, but that's your own projections. Like, you cannot projections. You cannot say that a flower is perfect. It probably has imperfections, but you perceive it as perfect. That is your own projection. Nothing in this world is perfect. You can't be perfect. No one can be perfect. That is just the truth. So that's an important thing to kind of consider. What do you perceive as perfect? Is it perfect? Probably not. But you can master. These things that you perceive as perfect have mastered their art. The flower that grows beautifully, it's mastered how it grows. It's not perfect, but it's mastered being a flower, over the millennia. It is mastered being a flower. So new moons are always a time to set intentions And this brings me to what the intention should be, and it is mastery, and it is focus, and it is effort, and it is healing, and it is health, and what is right according to your personal truth, according to what you can perceive, right? So, uh, you know, mhm, the question of perfection or imperfection, that's very Virgo in concept, and you can explore that. But I happen to know that my face is not symmetrical, and in no world will it ever be. Now, whether symmetrical is perfect or imperfect, I guess that is for you to decide, right? The question is, should we strive to be perfect, or does that even matter? That's the question. The question is, we should strive to be masters, masters of our own reality. There's a band called Masters of Reality, and they're really good. So I do want to say too, through the signs, because I did this new moon through the signs, and it helps you set intentions according to your chart. If you know your rising sign, you know what it manifests in your life. If you don't, just go look it up on astro.com. It's a very sort of technical thing to describe. So let me just say, figure out your rising sign, or if you're the sun sign as well, you can also interpret it for the sun sign. So, Aries rising or sun, this new moon is asking for everyday effort to make your goals come true. That means every day. Who you are in terms of career and public reputation has probably been redefined this year. Basically, what you do in the outer world. So now you're being called to put it into action. This means taking care of your health, taking care of your habits, your rituals, what you do every day, whether at work or at home. So if you're feeling the urge like to get out there and show yourself off, your skills, debut your new business, whatever it may be in the public world, it's a good idea to first consider the work that needs to be done to do it the right way, because there is always work that needs to be done. There is no one who's ever lived who's not had to feed themselves. You know what I mean? That's the work. That's the original sin of this world, right? That's the imperfection of this world. You have to get off your ass. So Aries risings or suns, that's what you got to do every day. But the way to do that is with mindfulness, intention in everything you do. So like if you're sweeping, you sweep out negative energy. If you're drinking water, you're drinking that love in. That's very important. So to be very mindful of what you do every day, and to put in effort in your everyday world. So Taurus rising or sun, now is the time to allow yourself to have a little fun. And that's the truth. The new moon calls your inner creative fire to be focused on. Basically, your inner child. You've been restructuring and transforming what you believe about the world, what you believe about reality, and like literally your personal truth. And that's been under a complete transformation. And that can feel pretty harsh, right? So that means you could be harsh to your inner child. You could be like, shut up, I don't have time, I'm trying to figure out what this matrix is, right? So at some point, you can't take in any more information. You can't philosophize anymore. You have to stop and smell the roses, and express the process creatively. So it's best to actively work on relieving the pressure before it finds an uncomfortable way out. This is your pass to, let go and have a little fun during this new moon. Set the intention to have fun, to feel romance, to play. As an adult, that may be a little different than coloring or getting an ice cream cone and go to the park, but, whatever that is for you. And if you're not sure what it is, maybe you're trying a little too hard. Maybe you should just like get a coloring book and and watch your favorite cartoon. Taurus rising, Taurus sun. All right, so now I'm going to talk about Gemini rising, Gemini sun, and home and family and emotional security are the themes for you this new moon. So you probably, Gemini rising or sun, can't or have, I shouldn't say can't, but have a hard time not thinking about the 8 billion things going on in the world right now. And that can take a really hefty emotional toll, right? So you've been restructuring your boundaries and stepping into your power this year. Like, that's a big deal. That's a very deep work that you're doing. And it requires just a lot of emotional processing, especially to accept and be happy about the fact that you're building something new and better. It's like, oh, great, my house got, torn down. I should be happy about building, right? That's that sort of situation, and that's metaphorical. But you're definitely restructuring the deepest parts of you. So sometimes it can even show up in your body if you're not processing the emotion very well. If you're ignoring it or stuffing it down. Emotional health is the important thing for you right now. And you're building with this new moon, you're setting intentions to build a stronger emotional foundation based on this transformation. So set intentions to acknowledge and feel your own emotions. And the important part is to also discern whether they're your emotions or that you're doing the emotional work for someone else. So it's important to draw strong boundaries and understand that you don't have time to do the emotional labor for anyone else, and you deserve, in fact, to have your emotional needs met. So it's also a good time to make small changes to your home to make it more comfortable as well. I mean, little bitty things like that to make you feel more emotionally supported. So Cancer rising or Cancer sun, you can keep pretending that you didn't hear or see the thing that you heard or saw, but that's not going to make it go away. And likewise, people will not hear you if you do not speak up. So this new moon is really asking you to put your pen to paper, to communicate, to go tell it on the mountain. The rules and boundaries you've had surrounding relationships and romantic and even platonic partnerships have been under a major restructuring. And so you were really getting clear on, can I feel supported in my relationships? Is this the right one? Is this the way I'm going, right? It's possible that you feel stronger support from your relationship, but it's also possible that you're like, this is not working. I need to get out of it. So really the main issue with Cancer rising, Cancer sun is the fact that the rules you set for yourself have to be your own. You can't be ruled by other people. And that's why this new moon is a great time to set intentions to really speak your truth to those important to you, for sure. Because when you do that, when you become highly functioning in communicating what your rules are or just who you are to the people close to you, then you'll have an easier time actually describing that to the outer world. So if you can communicate to your partner, it won't be a problem to tell some stranger how you feel, right? So also make sure you're caring for yourself, but definitely just set intentions to find a way to convey your ideas and thoughts in a clear way to those closest to you, so that you can be successful in doing it to the outer world, because that's coming. So Leo rising or sun, Leo rising, Leo sun. Have you ever heard the phrase, is it 6 in one, half a dozen in the other? So the same thing, 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. Well, maybe it's time that you take a look at how many eggs you do have in your basket. You've been going through a restructuring and transformation of your daily work life and who you work with, what you do every day, your health, your habits. That's what Leo risings, Leo suns have been dealing with, like what you do every day. And that can be extremely annoying because if you're scrambling to maintain sanity and keep your head above water, it's hard to remember that you've inherited the earth. You've inherited this earth. You are living here. You don't have to scramble every day, right? But that's what Leo risings have been dealing with, Leo sun. Uh, so just remember your worth, your value. You were born into humanity. You were born onto this earth. So this new moon is inviting you to stop lowering your standards and start charging higher prices. And that's both in reality and metaphorically. Uh, I think one of the important things to gain from this is you don't need to waste your time. Be exacting and discerning on who and what you give your time to. You're being supported in the ability to truly believe in yourself during this cycle, but it requires you to be an active participant in doing so. So, this is a good time to pick a mantra and say it every day, or write self affirming notes to yourself. Because if it's possible to cause your own stagnation, it's also possible to be an agent of your own success. So, Virgo rising, Virgo sun, this is all about you. Who are you? That's like the caterpillar in, what's that movie? Book, Alice in Wonderland. Who are you? Virgo rising and sun, this is truly your question. Um, so ask yourself that question. Are you happy with it? Are you happy with the answer you come up with? Do you need to put more effort into showing up as who you are? Like, should you just appear in front of the caterpillar and he knows who you are? He doesn't even have to ask. Especially without fear of judgment, you know? So this new cycle is all about the self for you and how it looks in the metaphorical mirror. You can make great strides on any goals to be more independent and courageous this fall, but a new self must start with a symbolic gesture. So, fear of loss or lack of fun can be making you feel grim. Well, the answer is just to detach from it. Meditation, accepting that you are here now, just as you are. You inherited this earth. Everyone has. So, you know, again, back to the idea, there's nothing of perfection in this world. And I think that that's a dangerous thing to live up to. You're told that God's perfect. Maybe God is seeking perfection through you. I don't know that there is. I mean, you can't have chaos and also have perfection. It's very difficult, right? So it's beautiful imperfection. And for you, you can set yourself to self improve with love from this place of beautiful imperfection, you know, really accepting yourself and being your authentic self. That's your idea for this new moon, your intention. Okay, Libra rising or Libra sun, and I would read for both, by the way, rising and sun. I think the question for you is, do you ever meditate, sit in silence, or contemplate? Because this new moon is in a place of spirituality and contemplation for you. And it's calling you to spend time in the spirit realm. So it's akin to allowing yourself to like download the new iOS or just the new version of your cell phone. That's what like this new moon is for you. You're downloading the newest version of your own programming for this new moon. And you can really set the intention to do so, to be open to doing that. If your emotional security has been challenged lately, over the last year at least, or your home life has been rough, the best tool during this moment in time, and I'm talking about this moment, I'm talking about past or future, I'm talking about right now, and that is to use spirituality to steady the shaking. So have a spiritual practice during this new moon, whether it be meditation, it could be running. Like, I am not someone who has a box of spirituality. Spirituality means a lot of different things to a lot of people. And you know what your personal truth is in this moment. And you also have the ability and the resources to search out new spiritual modes of healing and disconnection uh, from reality and connection to spirit, right? So, like I said, that could be a bunch of different things. So please don't think I'm putting it in a box. So anxiety is probably the worst enemy. So effort is required for Libra rising or sun to defeat it. If relationships have been challenging, it's best to shift the focus back onto yourself. So commune with dreams, commune with ancestors, commune with spiritual guides, whatever you consider God, commune with that and ask for their assistance in redefining and fortifying your emotional boundaries to support the future that you really truly want. So, Scorpio rising or sun. Oh, Scorpios. You could be pretty heavily reconsidering your goals during this time and the people around you, your network, the perfect future. Oh, well, the perfect future. What was that like last year, right? So, especially for Scorpio rising and sun, the perfect future that you had in your head is probably not happening in the way you had it, right? Let's just talk about the new year, for instance. You had a perfect future goal at the new year, right? So, this perfect future that you built for yourself, well, it may not look like you wanted it to. I mean, look at how much the outer reality has changed, right? So you're heavily reconsidering your goals during this time because maybe the goals that you had set were set in a different framework that is no longer available. So daily life can feel like a little bit of a struggle right now. You're like, I was working toward this and now this is not working. And it can seem like fun is non existent, right? And mental gymnastics are just off the chart for you, Scorpio rising sun right now. It's like never ending, just having to completely do mental gymnastics all the time. How do I deal with every day? Um, that could be that because you're challenged to redefine the way you communicate and the way you think, especially if you're attached to this old future goal, this old framework. Now you're being challenged to rethink and redo. So the shift into the new way of thinking about the world will require a reassessment of what you want for your future and to what networks you want, friend groups you want to be a part of. So I think a good intention to set is to be at peace with letting go of the old path and to find a new one that's more suited to like the new terrain. Okay, Sagittarius rising or sun. It is time for you to consider how you are here to improve this world. No pressure, no pressure. But the interesting thing is that you've been undergoing a process of building your own self-worth and maybe even your own financial standing. So you have the ability now to actually bring that confident self or maybe that abundant self into this new world and help, right? You can achieve the things you desire. It's just a matter of actually showing up without fear of judgment or without fear of doubt or self-doubt, self-judgment, right? So, we'll never be free from the judgments of others. We won't. But we can be free of the value we ascribe to those judgments. So, in a very real sense, setting a goal for a career or anything in public will be a great way to start this cycle, to show up in the outer world. And it could prove very lucrative for you. So, put in practice and the effort, and you'll receive the reward. We're not striving for perfection, we're striving for mastery, Sagittarius. All right, Capricorn rising or sun. We're almost done, I promise. Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces is what I got left. Okay, Capricorn, rising or sun. This new moon is an opportunity to be educated and open up to new truths. So we can be very focused on being right, so much so that we do ourselves a disservice. The things that make up your entire identity have been completely redone this year. So you may find yourself not knowing what to believe anymore. It's like, I don't even know what to believe. I don't even know who I am. Trying to figure out who I am. All the things that you've identified with as like an identifying trait have been, maybe taken away or changed. And so it can't be the same. So it's like, for instance, if you loved traveling to different countries and now all the borders are closed, right? And that's what you identified with. That completely kind of jars your sense of being. So it forces you to tweak what your truth is. And it also requires a letting go. You must allow the old things to pass away and open up to the new reality of the world. Capricorn risings. Uh, do not stubbornly hold on to something. Capricorn sun rising. Both. Don't stubbornly hold on to something that isn't working because, well, it won't work anymore. Humility is necessary for survival. I came up with this phrase: we cannot invent fire if we do not admit that we are cold. Part of this new moon requires you to surrender to the spiritual concept that there is something greater than yourself and decide how you want to proceed with that. All right, Aquarius rising or sun. Aquarius rising or sun. This new cycle is all about redefining your boundaries and your personal power. It's a good time to entertain the concept that our own personal truth may be completely divergent from another person's. That's okay. A lack of control may be super anxiety inducing for you, especially in the past. But as your subconscious has really undergone a reprogramming this year, you've begun to learn to trust the process and to surrender to the chaos, to surrender to the imperfection, to surrender to all of it. So we must be aware of the places we've asked others to bend to our will as a mechanism of our shadow. But we also must be aware of the times that we've bent to others' will. Okay, so any times we may be abused or controlled, both things. Where are we controlling and abusing? Where are we being controlled and abused? These are the situations that are, on the docket for Aquarius risings or suns. This is not like the easiest place because you have to really consider your boundaries, consider what power means to you. But both of these situations, whether you're being controlled or controlling, are the result of perhaps a lack or misunderstanding of your own self-worth and maybe a lack of emotional security of being your own rock. So it can also manifest as not letting others get to know the real you as a way of controlling the outcome. Maybe it's like, well, I need to control this outcome, so I'm definitely not going to tell them that I like pancakes because they don't like pancakes, right? You get what I'm saying. Hopefully pancakes are the least of your worries right now. But so this new moon really wants you to consider letting people in and sharing your deepest, maybe even darkest parts of yourself. And also it's beneficial to set intentions to grow and ground very strongly and to redefine your boundaries in such a way that reflects how much you do value yourself. So go deep and consider how hidden desires may be expressed in a healthy way because you deserve to share that with people. You deserve to tell them who you are at the deepest sense. All right, Pisces rising or sun. Last one. This new cycle concerns the relationships in your life and whether they will fit into the new goals, new future, new networks that you have. So you've been redrawing the blueprints of your future, and it requires a focused and discerning look at your partnerships and friendships. How do they fit into it? So consider first if they can be improved and if they can fit in, and then how that can be implemented. So maybe your partnership just needs to be tweaked, right? So a partnership can be romantic and fun, but at a certain point, the practical nature of aligning your entire life with another human has to be considered. So that's why during this new cycle, it'll be beneficial for you to intend on dusting and polishing the commitments that you have made both to romantic and friendly partners. So it's also very important to be honest with yourself. If there is a relationship in your life that is too rusted to function, like, is that even functioning anymore? It's important to understand that. It might be a typical behavior for you to continue on with something because it's easier or it keeps the peace, but the future doesn't allow for that. You need people in your life that are intent on ensuring mutual success. So if you don't have a relationship, or one like that. Set intentions to make it happen this new moon, because you are very cosmically supported in a relationship that supports you, in a relationship that works with your future, in a relationship that works with your friend groups, with your networks, with your goals. Okay, so that's all through the rising signs. I do believe that concludes my new moon in Virgo video. I hope that you guys, you know, maybe it illuminated or validated or at least helped direct in some way. It really does for me. And I will say, just before I let go, I want to talk about how Friday, maybe the moon's in Libra, you know, could be feeling kind of tense, really needing to balance things out with the way the world is and the way we're all having to change and our desires. So I would like to pay attention to this weekend for that very closely. Um, if you're having tense moments, tense, you know, situations this weekend, just know that it's going to pass. But really focus on self-care, because there's nothing in Cancer right now. So making sure you're doing what the inside mama would tell you, you know, like your own mama, whether it be your real mom or just you as your own mom. You know, would she tell you to go take a nap, or maybe to, you know, nourish yourself better? That's an important thing to realize this weekend. Process emotion. Um, and let me say too that, oh, is that before? Yeah, I'm looking at Tuesday, looks like the first quarter square of the moon. And that's going to deal with belief and truth. You know, what is the truth? What do I even believe? That's the first adjustment we make. So, like, if we're focusing on things and like, oh, well, we need to do this. Uh, Wait, when is that first quarter square? Hold on. It can't be Tuesday. No, it is Wednesday. Get double clear, double check. Yeah, it's Wednesday evening. Um, I think that actually has us questioning what the rules really are. You know, like if we really want to get this done, if this intention is what we have, how do we redefine our structures to support that? Um, I always like to look ahead to the future for you guys because I think it's important. Yeah, and the sun moves into Libra. So anytime anything's in Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, or Aries right now, there's definitely stuff in Capricorn and Aries consistently. So anytime anything's in Libra or Cancer, it is completing this T square or grand cross, which is super tension, but also action. It's active tension. Like we need to act on something. So that's another thing. Like I really should talk about, we had this weekend, right? With the moon there. And then, yeah, Sunday, the Mercury is square Pluto, which is going to have us decide we need to end something. Something needs to change. Then it squares, the sun moves into Libra the 22nd, which is the equinox. Then it squares Saturn. That's going to be Tuesday evening. Mercury squares Saturn is, okay, well, if I ended this thing, if this thing needs to change, then I definitely need to proceed with this structure in the first quarter square of the moon. So structure is a big deal for next week. What are the rules? Defining the boundaries, defining the way things move forward, and the truth. Let's see. Just looking. Oh yeah. So then we have September 27th, next Sunday. Not this Sunday, next Sunday. The moon, not the moon. Mercury moves into Scorpio. Which means it's definitely in shadow because Mercury will go retrograde very soon after this, not very long. So, Mercury in Scorpio is really going to bring up intense thoughts, intense desires, intense situations. And it's something to look for sure. I think I'll probably do a separate video on that. And then we have Oh yeah, Venus trine Mars. That's going to be Monday the 28th, just after that, just after Mercury. So that's pretty passionate, I would say, actually. The 27th, 28th. You may have some super passionate stuff go on during that time. Kind of a nice sort of energy. The masculine and the feminine are very aligned during a Venus Mars trine, in fire especially. So that could also be super creative, super motivating. Oh, and Saturn goes direct during that time. That's going to be a big deal. I'm definitely going to have to do another video on this whole next week. Like, seriously. So I think my best advice is for sure to pay attention to those rising sign and sun sign delineations that I did for you guys. Set your intentions. I think look, be super intentional for this one. It is with Saturn. It has potential to be long lasting. It has the potential to be something that you can actually move forward on. Really try. Really put in the effort for this new moon. It's tomorrow at 5:59 a.m. But look, you have tonight and tomorrow. I'm going to give you that whole time because it will be, yeah, it moves into Virgo. I'm sorry, it moves out of Virgo. What time? By 1, almost 2 o'clock tomorrow. So look, yeah, yeah, by 1:55. I'm all about details with Virgo. 1:55 p.m. tomorrow, the moon moves out of Virgo. So I think your window is right now through then. Am I going to say you shouldn't set an intention if it's past that? Absolutely not. You can always do that, okay? This is super powerful, astrologically speaking, to do it while the moon's in Virgo. Well, all my love, I hope that you don't take on too much guilt, too much work, too much any of the negative things, the worry, the anxiety, all of that. Do your best to, I haven't even revealed my wolf earrings yet. Here they are. Wolf teeth. I was informed that they were pulled off of a naturally occurring passing wolf. So don't think any wolves were harmed when I got these. Very Virgo, though. Very woman shaman sort of thing. So, love you guys. Thanks for watching. Hope it helped. Weigh in the comments. Message me if you have any questions. Go to astro.com to get your birth chart. It's free. That's a great resource. And also, I have openings for sessions, and I enjoy the hell out of it. We dive into your story, and we figure things out, and we talk, and you can vent, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. You guys have a great evening. Happy new moon in Virgo. I can't even speak anymore. Happy new moon in Virgo.